assessment, which every property owner has a right to do. They said, look, we want to get this out of the way right now. So they went into this tax floor payments. Basically, a little convoluted, but basically what it means is they're gonna pay their assessed value of their tax, and as the assessment goes up, they will always be capped. The most that the company would ever pay total to the three taxing entities, school, township, and
Borough.
county, is capped at $500,000. So they actually have a schedule set for it. Year one, 300 and some thousand, and it goes up and up and up. See, the difference down there was there was two turbines, each 550, something like that. First one was going to be built. The second one wasn't anticipated to be built until years later. They knew that once the second one was built, the assessed valuation was going up. They were trying to negotiate and get the sure thing for the municipalities back then and get it out of the way and avoid any appeals in the future, which made sense. But again, all right, the most, and by the way, after year 40, everything goes away, done. And they just go to pay whatever the taxes are. This is what the most would be based on the cap of 500 and the other payments that they've made thus far. Add them all up, grand total, $17,340,200. Far cry from our total package. Okay. This can't be ignored. This is a list of all other power plants in Pennsylvania with nothing. Nothing. Because let me say first, if you didn't hear me say this before, Pennsylvania law or otherwise does not require them to pay anything. Energy did not have to pay, they had no legal obligation to pay a dime, legal obligation. So with that premise, there are 40 plants in Pennsylvania, and these are only plants that are over 100 megawatt. 40 plants in Pennsylvania total that don't have any host agreements, and there they are. I actually listed the megawatts. Notable, Moxie Freedom, Salem Township, Luzerne County, almost 1,100 megawatts, zero. That's under construction right now, less than 25 miles away from here. Very close to the same size. This big one, Martins Creek, almost 1,800, nothing. And they have two side by side there. There's, for informational, there's 20 natural gas plants which are over 100 megawatts, 5 nuclear plants, and 15 coal plants. Again, none having any host agreement. Now let's get to the comparables that have been brought up time and time again as being the far better deal. Now, I want to know that Cannon Falls was the first plant that I looked at months ago when I began even researching the host agreement, and that I use consistently as in my negotiations. And here's the thing with Cannon Falls. You're going to see a number here, 69,605,000. Again, 20 million less than our package. But let me note, this is not a host agreement. This is not a host agreement. Technically, we shouldn't even be using this, but it's been brought up and I have to use it, and I'm going to tell you why. This is a pilot agreement, 100%. There is a huge difference between a host agreement and a pilot agreement. A pilot agreement is something that is used by municipalities all over the country, governments, etc., to provide revenue that is lost because of some type of ownership or becomes some type of use of a property. The best example I could give is that we all would be familiar with is a nonprofit. A lot of nonprofit-owned buildings, churches, some universities, University of Scranton, they're nonprofits. They don't pay taxes. So what they do is they work out a deal. Some of the hospitals, they work out a deal for a pilot payment in lieu of taxes to the municipal governments, understanding that they're using up their services, they're using up, et cetera, and they want to be a part of the community. Now, the only time you really see pilots in Pennsylvania is with the nonprofit situation. And unless, and by the way, in those cases, pilots have to be voluntary. Unless there's some statutory requirement that makes you pay, like a statute says you must go do a pilot. That's what happens in Cannon Falls, in Minnesota. It's a pure pilot, not a host. And understand that Minnesota law is nowhere near what Pennsylvania law is. In Minnesota, the equipment of the plant is considered personal property. They tax that to death, along with the real estate. So it's not exempt like it is in Pennsylvania. Which, by the way, their tax structure is totally different than Pennsylvania's as well. And from what the research that I've done and what I've read, it becomes almost cost prohibitive for a power plant to commence operations in the state of Minnesota because of their tax laws. So what's customarily happens, and it's common practice from what I understand, from what I read, and what happened with Cannon Falls, an energy-owned plant, they request their special legislation from the legislators to say, enact special legislation to exempt us from this personal property tax and we'll come here. Now, the legislators have an interest because they want power plants, they want to bring them in for whatever various reasons. I'm not going to get into that, but they want them. So they say, okay, we will. You're still going to pay the real estate taxes, but here's what you're going to do. As part of the legislation, we're going to require you to go to the municipalities and negotiate a pilot. And that's what happened here. And that's what happens with all of them. So they were required to go and negotiate agreements with the town, the county, and the school district. And here was the result. And this is, I spread out over 45-year totals. 58% of what they would pay annually went to the town of Cannon Falls. Only 58%. 11% went to the county, 31% went to the school district. And what happened, this is odd, after this was done, something weird happened there. I'm not quite sure what, but there was a dispute with the school district, and the school district they did something to say, well, that's not enough, we want some other, so they ended up negotiating some other type of a fee, and they called it a supplementary school fee, but it's not, it's still a tax, but it's put in the tax rules, but it's separate beyond this. At any rate, when you add these up, $7,575,000. If you want this year, if you want the breakdown annually, 2015, that meant $528,000 to the town. Not $1 million, $528,000. That's all that town's getting. Well, in addition to the real property tax, which I'll point out down here, that would be $51,000. So they're getting a little over $600,000 in taxes and taxes alone. The town. The county is getting $100,000 up here, and in the real property tax, they're getting $31,000 for a total of $31,000 for a total of $130,000. The school district is getting up here in taxes $282,000 and a supplementary fee of $210,000 for a total of roughly $500,000 and $15,000 down here in the taxes. Okay, so that's the breakdown of individual years, just so you can keep in your mind where they're at. But here, if you multiply all those and you spread them out over the 45-year comparable, this is their package. Now, I need to also point out that contrary to some suggestions that have been made, you cannot do a pilot for a property that has been designated a KOZ in Pennsylvania. It's illegal, it's contrary to the law. If anybody would like the case, I can give it to you. So it must be voluntary. That's why you don't see pilots. There's no need to do pilots in Pennsylvania. This is unique to what I'll call a pilot state, like Minnesota. And once the KLZ expires, they're just gonna be paying tax like you and I on you know, the value of their, on what they're obligated to pay on the land and the structure. Just last point is, I know that there was some, and just pointing out, there was some depreciation, I know, built into some of these, but, okay. These I can move through. I also looked at the Wyawanda. This was also one that I had initially looked at way back. This is New York, upstate New York. New York is a pilot state, like Minnesota. This is not a host agreement. Absolutely not. This is 100% a pilot. Taxes only, it's all they're paying. And what they did was, they're paying $373,000 a year in what they've dubbed the community benefits, but it's over, by the way, only a 22-year term on this, which comes to $8,200,000, and then by agreement, they just negotiated a flat tax up there, and it's basically an $11 million package. And that's it. That's all they get.
What year was that?
Jerry, I have that in my folder. I don't know. I don't have that listed here. And I can't remember. I want to say recently. I want to say 12, 13. I can tell you after the meeting. I have it here. Maybe more recent.
2015, right?
Was it 15? Somebody said it? Okay. I thought it was more like 13, 14. Another one that has been used. The big three that I had heard about, and that of course a lot of you, Jason, had pointed out, Cannon Falls, Medway, Wyawanda. Here's Medway. This is in Massachusetts. Medway is a combination host agreement and pilot. So you have both in this one. So the host agreement is as follows. It's a 20-year term. They're making payments yearly of $15,000 for fire emergency management services, police and first responder, equaling this. A one-time payment for purchase, acquisition, and equipping of foam, structural firefighting appliance vehicles, training to deal with oil, fuel storage. Medway was an existing plant that had been there for a while. It was an oil plant. They kind of converted it over, or in the process of doing it so periodically. That was a one-time payment, $650,000. Another one-time payment, $100,000 for the purchase of dryer chemical firefighting vehicle. Another one-time payment of $50,000 for assistance with emergency management and preparedness. And another one-time payment, reimbursement capped, legal fees and technical consultants capped at $100,000. Another one-time payment of $28,000 for water analysis, and a yearly payment of $20,000 for Energy Conservation Awareness Fund, for a total of $400,000 over the 20 years. The total pure host payments package, $1,628,000. That's it. 20 years. Now, the pilot portion of it is unknown right now, because under Massachusetts law, pilots have to be approved by referendum. It's the way they do it. And there's an election coming up in May of 2016, in a few months. And that's going to be voted on. So that's where that's at. Now, based on the reading I've done, this is the number that they're anticipating to all taxing bodies, not just the town, all taxing bodies. That's what it's worth. So I plug that in. Add everything up, $74,628,000. And they're
Rick,
done.
what's the size of that plant?
Is that a wind farm?
Medway, I don't have the megawatts on that.
400,
I forget.
around
After looking at them so long, you forget.
Around 437.
Thank you. And you know, Medway, this plant I know is in the center of town. And it's right, it's in a weird spot, and there's like houses right around it, like abutting the property, and it's a little odd. Like right up against it. So again,
Oh, I'm sure.
Oakwood Hills. This is a project that was a proposed power plant that never was built. The developer pulled out. And I'll quickly go through this one since it's not even existing. The total package on this would have been $41,810,000. This one actually, even though it wasn't built, this is probably the best comparable to ours because it's a host, pure host agreement. And they were gonna pay taxes like the normal taxpayer. That's what this one consists of. This is what the numbers that I picked up, they were anticipating, totaling 41 million. Again, nowhere near what ours is. San Jose, honestly, I didn't look at this one in the beginning, but Jason brought it up, and it was mentioned, I think in the fair shake letter. So you know what, I included it.
It's not a respect thing. We'll do the same thing we did. Present respect. Thanks, guys.
This one's really bizarre. It's hard to figure out, probably because it's California law, and if you don't know, everything that happens in California with their laws is bizarre. And I mean that. I mean, they're just different with everything. Not to mention, this is in Santa Clara County. Different stuff happens out there. To me, this is the least comparable. In my opinion, you shouldn't even be using this as a comparable because all of these things are paid pursuant to state law. They have these energy fund requirements you gotta pay into. I mean, there's like 3 different things that they are required to pay. Totally different state laws, totally different power structure, power market, etc. And they're all one-time payments. Be that as it may, once they pay these, they're done. So 45 years, this is all that's worth.
What about the real estate taxes that are under?
500,000. So there's, in addition to that, they will be paying taxes on something. It's not clear to me what. Something I read told me that it's everything, personal equipment and the land. There's no way to even calculate. Again, this is really one that is, you know, so this would be this number plus whatever taxes they're required to pay. Whatever that is, that is. So here's a quick recap. Jessup, 86,177,000. Peach Bottom, 17,340,000. Cannon Falls, 69,605,000. 11 million for Wyawanda, 74 million for Medway, 41 for Oakwood Hills, and this 6,500,000 for San Jose. And this includes everything. So if you're going to compare, you have to compare taxes and host, and then as we did, taxes and host. It's apples to apples. My comments that these are different laws with different states. Now you can see what I meant. So it's all about apples to apples, folks. That's how you have to do this.
Are any of them
Now,
1,500
I would not,
megawatts?
you can't even think of arguing that different states and different markets have different values, just like homes. Take my home, it's worth one thing here, move it to New Jersey, totally different value. Move it to Boston, totally different value. It's like that with anything. It's like that with real estate, it's like that with power, from what I understand. I'm not a power.
Could I add a comment to that? Just to
Well,
clarify.
on the power?
Yeah. Because what I wanted to,
Sure.
if I could, just, I think one of the things you're trying to explain that I probably have a better grasp on is the actual power markets themselves. Power markets are not, the power markets here are not the same as in New York, the same as in Minnesota, the same as California, the same as Texas. The whole country operates on regional grid.